Okay, so you'll open up your Google account that you use for communication with us at Sedona Mystical Tours. So if you have multiple Google accounts, you can click on the right-hand side and just scroll to that correct address. And then when you open up the Google Drive, so if you click on these little circles over here on the right-hand side and then click on Google Drive, that's going to take you to your homepage. So you can either type in Invoice up here in the search bar, or you can go to Shared with Me, and that's going to pull up your shared folders to be able to view. So once you find your invoice, you can go ahead and click on that. You want to make sure that it's in the correct year. And you'll see over here on the left-hand side, there's 4 different tabs: Overview and Considerations, Submissions and Payments, Additional Amounts, and then a sample page. Each one has a clickable PDF that you can view, which I recommend opening that and then downloading or saving that to your computer to use for future reference. So in the Overview and Considerations tab, that's where you're going to find this video for training for reference in the future as well. So all this will have all the information of what you need as far as any considerations when inputting the information or setting the information in for payment. At the very bottom here, you'll see all the way to the very end that it has the dates listed from the month first and then the date for each pay period. So if we open up the second pay period in January, let's go ahead and let's just say this is January 16th. And you'll see automatically the account applies to 1. You don't want to change anything for that number, and I'll mention why a little bit later. And then we'll input the person's name here, the session, and total number of clients you had. Let's say this was a couples astrology session, so we're going to input 2 people. And as far as client communication, so we do offer bonuses when you reach out at least 48 hours in advance. You can input an additional $10 there. If it's less than 48 hours, so between 48 hours or 24 hours, that amount would be 0. If it is, however, less than 24 hours, or if not resolved after 5 p.m. the day prior, it would be these set amounts that apply. So it would be -10 or -25, just to pay for the staff and any communication, particularly after hours, to help resolve this. So again, that incentive is just there as a bonus to reach out to the clients in advance to establish that connection and develop a good initial first impression and relay any pertinent details as far as any questions or clarification, for example, maybe for their chart or for patient information. So really important to reach out to clients in advance in order to receive that bonus too. Okay, so as far as the duration, so generally for sessions, they're anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. If it were a 90-minute session, you would input 1. If it were 75 minutes, that would be 1.25. 90 minutes is 1.50. You can see the little cheat sheet up here. And then the rate is the per minute rate, the per hour rate. So $67 for the sessions. And here again is where you're going to find the additional information come in handy. So under sessions where it says additional amounts here, you'll see that you can receive an additional $10 per session per chart for astrology. So since it was a couples astrology and 2 charts, we're going to input that for 2 people for $20. And then in this tab for referrals or for repeat clients, if you go back to the tab for additional amounts, up here at the top, it will give you the additional amounts for repeat clients. So let's say that this one was a repeat client, and then we'll apply that amount for the session. So everything over here is going to calculate for all of the totals for you. And you'll notice that on different tabs for the ones at the very beginning of the pay period, you'll see this row for reviews from previous months. And so you might already see information that's input in there. If you had a review, that would be listed here. Each review for the review and then the amount, which would be applied to the total. So over on the next section, as far as the notes, this is what's going to be helpful more so for your own reference for future considerations if you were to see these clients again, or relaying any information maybe for a retreat client or any pertinent details for you if you do any ongoing work for them. You can share some of that information here, but just keeping it as confidential information. So anything, for example, if they arrived late, that's all helpful for us to know. And of course, if that was the case or if there was any difficulties with that, not only putting it in the notes, but letting us know by sending us a text message or an email as well is super helpful. And of course, we'd love to hear all of the great notes here. So if the session went well, we love to hear that too. And then as far as the location, you can input the location if it was at their accommodation or if it was at your own studio below. Okay, so I had mentioned this number being important for the count, and I'll explain why. So if you go over to the very last tab for yearly totals, you'll see at the bottom here, trainings and or supplies or any rollover funds. If you did not hit that minimum amount for payout for the previous year, that'll be listed here. And so say, for example, if you wanted to cash out for trainings or supplies, maybe you want to buy astrology, like a tarot pack, or maybe like some essential oils or something, you can input that into the notes section of the bottom one and just input, and then inputting that in the miscellaneous tab for $22. Okay, so after you've checked over everything, it all looks good, then you can go File, Share with others, and then input the email for Sedona Mystical Experiences, LLC. You don't even have to put a message in here. Once you notify us, that just lets us know that the invoice is ready and good to go. You can also just send us an email. You don't need to do it this way. But if you'd like, in whether it's the message or the email, if you are applying for any cash outs, you can just input that information here. So you can just keep it short, simple, and sweet, and then go ahead and click send. And that just lets us know that the invoice is complete and it's ready for payment or for overview. And again, you can review all of that information as far as the overview and considerations, the submission and payments here. And if you have any questions regarding the process or payments or anything that's not listed in any of those tabs, you can just email us at billing@sedonamysticaltours.com.